I don't know about you, perhaps it's just me, but it seems like virtually everybody has forgotten that the US government back in 2020 had absolutely no problem whatsoever humiliating its citizens. And many other governments as well around the world went right along with it. They made people, against their will, mask their faces. Everybody seems to have forgotten about this, or they don't believe the government would take it any farther. Well, guess what? They will. They have absolutely no problem whatsoever humiliating the people of this country. They meaning, of course, the people in Washington, D.C. Now, some might ask, how did they enforce such a strange thing? How did they effect such a strange change in behavior across so many people? Well, it's simple. They used psychological operations. And, of course, that is our wheelhouse. Battlefield of the mind. Nobody asked that question. They were either on one side that said, well, it was a good idea, or the other side said it was a bad idea. But nobody asked the question, how did they affect such a large-scale operation so quickly? Once again, join us. Florida Maquis Patreon channel. News alert. Brand new video. Brand spanking new video over at the Patreon channel. Just got done posting it a couple hours ago. And it deals with this and what's coming. Most people 30 years ago, if you had told them what was happening in 2020, would have said, well, even if they had that idea, there would be no way to enforce it. Well, guess what? They did. And look at how many people complied. Here in Florida, we didn't comply as much, and in other places. But what was their plan? You see, the next plan, they're not going to need to force you. It's going to be a matter of whether you eat or whether you don't. This time, they asked nicely, and if you didn't go along with what they said, well, they could make your life inconvenient. Some folks lost their jobs and had to go on unemployment, but let's be real. In the real world, that was an inconvenience. Next time, it's going to be a matter of life and death. You see, now, with the power of corporate America being far greater than what it was even in 2020, they're not going to have any problem whatsoever forcing you to do anything to earn money. Anything at all. Because the government benefits are going to go away. Strangely, because they are going to start to sing the praises, you ready for this? Not of socialism, but of capitalism. I found this cartoon and I thought it was hilarious and I wanted to share it. It's, of course, a scene from, I guess, sometime in the medieval era. I'm going to guess sometime probably in the 1500s, where there's these gentlemen questioning this other one about why he would want a certain job. And he said, well, I've always been passionate about not starving to death. That's going to be the only reason. And once again, there were people that made the decision, gosh, I don't want to wear a mask, but I have to keep my job to feed my family. So they did. Well, it's going to be a lot worse. It's got to be a lot worse than that. See, some people made other decisions, said, you know what? I'm going to hang on to my freedom. I'll lose my job. If I lose my house, I guess we'll go live by the side of the road under a couple of tarps with a tent. And as long as we have just what we can scrabble up to feed the dogs and get by, we're going to keep our freedom. And some people said, well, I'm going to find a job where I can still make enough money to stay in my home, but I'm also not going to comply. And lo and behold, we have OnlyFans and we have all these other pseudo-legalized prostitution sites that allow people to bring in mass amounts of income without having to answer to anybody, and that really bothers the daylights out of the government. I was shocked when this started, this whole paradigm of Uber and Lyft, that more governments, local governments, state governments, didn't stand up and try to push back against this incredibly dangerous idea of allowing people, many times young women, to go out and randomly use their phone to find mostly men, who were drunk, and then go pick them up and take them home for $3. Nobody stood up and said, wait a minute, this is a terrible idea. This is a horrible idea. But from government's perspective, if you looked at it, they said, well, gosh, think of how many DUIs this would get rid of. This would be a great election year issue. Because look at all the DUIs that are going away because all of these people are finding very easy rides. Well, guess what happened? Guess what happened? Government revenue from all of those fines and fees that used to be assessed to the DUI folks all collapsed. That's when they finally said, wait a minute, now we need to get rid of Uber and Lyft. See how that works? Government doesn't have your or society's best interest in mind, regardless of what they tell you. If that were the case, we wouldn't have nurses making 6 figures a year, teachers making 5 figures a year, having to supplement incomes, doing things that were morally questionable and have been morally questionable for thousands of years. But now, everything's changed. What if I told you there's a day coming when you might go to the government for benefits and they're going to ask you, have you availed yourself of every possible financial road? I mean, are there other places out there? I mean, I know you lost your main job and you can't find a job in, the field that you kind of want to, but there's got to be something out there you can make money at. And lo and behold, look what we found here. Have you tried this? If you haven't, I think it's more important, if there's a job to be done, listen to this, capitalists, closely. If there's a job to be done and you're refusing it, you don't get any government benefits. If there's a job to be done, regardless of the morality, you don't get any benefits. That, or we can put you someplace where you'll have a place to stay, 3 hots and a cot. Don't think so? This is thecut.com. Is prostitution just another job? This is Vice. Your job has more in common with sex work than you might think. You see, they're normalizing it. And for those of you that are questioning this, it's very state to state. Whether you must accept a job offer while receiving unemployment benefits depends on the state. But mark my words, they're going to make this the requirement for food stamps too. In general, you can refuse a job offer if it is not considered suitable employment. Suitable work includes jobs that match your skills and experience, pay a reasonable wage, and are related to your primary skill. A job may be considered unsuitable if it has demanding physical requirements. I find that odd is more hazardous than your previous job. Or if travel costs, time, significant burden, industry trends, blah, 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 blah. Question for you. Really? So let me get this straight. If you're one of these people that said, they should never be able to force anybody into prostitution because of the physical aspect of it that could cause damage to. So if some guy's sitting on unemployment at home and there's a moving company down the street that needs somebody to lift big, heavy shit all day long, 10, 12 hours a day, 5 and 6 days a week, and perhaps all he's ever been is a salesman in his life, should he, instead of getting government benefits, should he be forced to take that moving job, even though it could long-term do massive amounts of destruction to his back and his knees and his shoulders and his neck, every joint in his body? Lifting things that are 150, 250, 300 pounds every day, up and down stairs, all kinds of weather. Is he allowed to refuse and say, you know what? That job is too physically hazardous to my body. That job is too physically hazardous to my body, and I need to refuse that job. Would government be okay saying, well, then we're going to take away your benefits? They're here for people who can't work. They're here for people who can't work, who have no other options. Would that be right or wrong? Because I think a lot of people would have a very different answer if some woman said, gosh, I am not going down to the local you-know-where under government mandate and swinging around on a pole. Because that would make me feel uncomfortable. There would be riots in the street, at least right now anyway, if this were happening and the government was saying, we're going to take away your benefits, your Social Security, your Medicaid, your food stamps, your WIC, because they're hiring right down the road from you. And it's a job you can do. It's a job that's in demand. And it's, you know, they have been demanding, sex workers have been demanding for equal rights and equal recognition for how long? If you don't think so, look that up. So who would be right and who would be wrong would be my question. Once again, this is probably not what a lot of people had on their bingo cards for economic collapse preparation. They have no problem humiliating you. They have no problem humiliating you. Believe me, and I know there's probably a lot of ladies out there that are already mad about what I just said. Fine, be mad. But trust me when I tell you, when you get older as a guy and you've done physically heavy labor all your whole life, and all of a sudden certain problems and health issues start cropping up, it can be pretty damn humiliating sometimes. And I'll just leave that there and let that, those of you who have that experience, share down in the comment section what can really happen. See, all work at some level is a form of prostitution, no matter what it is. And there are some jobs out there that the government has the ability to force you to take, as opposed to giving you benefits if you can't work or lose your job. And nobody will say a word. Nobody will come running to defense. In fact, there's an entire cottage capitalism industry that will say it's more important for you to keep corporate America rich. Much more important. Because that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal, because these are the tools that we use to control people. Why do you want a job anyway? Why are you so passionate about not starving to death? Just go live by the side of the road. I'm sure there's all sorts of places, second hand-me-down, where you can get some tarps and maybe a tent and don't have to do anything. It's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around, especially this. Those of you out there that have grown kids, young kids, I guess when I say young, 18 to 26, especially if they're females, out driving around for Uber and Lyft, trying to make an extra $50, $60 here and there. The risk. See, nobody gets their nose bent out of shape about this. But other things, oh my goodness. So I will leave it there. God bless all of you who have joined us at Patreon. Once again, brand new video. Brand spanking new video. Just posted just a couple hours ago. $1 US per month. That's it. Even less. Sorry. Even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable. First 90 days, no questions asked. Hundreds of videos going back years and years and years. Trust me, not for everybody. But if you're the type that wants the truth completely unvarnished, in detail, join us. Love to have you. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. See you guys next time.